What's up, everyone? Welcome to the next lesson. This is another bonus one. It's going to be a short and sweet one. We'll approach it differently. We have the glorious Pride Parade image, and I know it looks absolutely crazy, and in a way it is. We'll do a making of, pointing out some cool things in 3D, but most importantly, we'll show you how far you can push your images in post-production. This lesson is all about cheating both in 3D and 2D, so let's get it started.
Okay, here we have our Pride Parade scene. It's without the crazy activity yet, so we can discuss the 3D scene and lighting itself. The project is located in the intersection of streets. We have a pocket park, and the buildings continue along the streets, enclosing spaces from all the angles. The camera is somewhere around here, and behind it there's a box that limits the incoming light. It's a cool technique. In case you haven't seen it before, we talk about it more in the exterior lighting chapter. But anyway, we use it to cast shadows in the foreground and restrict light coming in from the back. We also have some floating buildings, sometimes used to cast shadows, sometimes to reflect off the glass. Everything works within our camera. The HDRI we are using here is PGSky's 1216. It has the sun in a fairly high position, close to the zenith. That's why we had to place the buildings in such absurd positions. We can launch the interactive and see how it looks in the frame buffer. Everything is nice and clean. We have side lighting. We show one facade in direct sunlight and the other one in the shadow. Typical sun direction choice. It plays nicely with glass reflections too. There's the box casting the shadows, and pretty much everything stays the same as we did previously in the exterior chapter. Be sure to look it up if you haven't already. Moving on. The party is here! We have all the craziest assets from the Anima 4D, some with simple rainbow flags. Some people jumped on poles, this crowd is going wild. There's even an old man with a cane and a flag hanging from it. This character usually sits on a chair, but you do you, sir. Everyone is obviously positioned to work within the camera angle, and camera angle only. We have people on the left and right and some space left in the middle. We don't want to create an impenetrable wall of people, but something that draws us more into the scene. Fantastic. Let's see what happened in post-production. You already saw the final image in the beginning, so you can expect lots of post-production here. So, this is essentially the raw 3D render. Our first step was to brighten these people. They were in deep shadow, which might have been fine if the subject was the building, but the image is actually more about the people now, so we want to highlight them a bit more. We replaced the sky, added some cumulus clouds to enhance the sunny day vibe. Next up, a series of selective contrast modifications. It makes the image much punchier. We also implement the aerial perspective, so the buildings in the background fade away. Next up, it might not have been noticeable in the overall context, but many elements have a color gradient applied. For example, here on the facade, it's just a small tweak, but we poured the rainbow on top of it, from basically blue to some kind of purple. And at this point we start using Firefly and slowly transforming people. It's the same workflow as we did in the Mediterranean scene ages ago. As we are revealing the layers, it doesn't look great immediately, but as we add them one by one, changing individual elements like shirts and pants, it will eventually start to click. We add these kinds of costumes. We mask them in places where they go a bit wild and keep the parts that are cool. And at this point there are often a lot of odd inaccuracies. We see that some people are deformed. It doesn't really make sense. For example, on this jacket. The tree is also kind of weird with those ribbons, but these are all intermediate steps that we'll either fix later with Firefly or let Magnific handle. We add a tree in the form of a typical 2D cutouts. We also manually draw some ribbons with a basic brush. This is a typical guided generation, just to help Firefly figure it out, and indeed we get a realistic ribbons in return. And again we continue with the people, transforming typical outfits into something more fitting. I let the timelapse play from this moment and give some additional comments here and there. We are not afraid of bold moves, just like slapping on some colors with a brush and then letting Firefly handle it. Nice and easy. Basically, this job requires going through the image one person at a time. As we can see here, we had this old man behind the pole. We are trying to make AI hallucinate his head in front of the pole. And at some point we actually succeed. We continue with the clothes, adding graffiti on the ground, not just like they are sitting on the dirty sidewalk. We manually paint rainbow crosswalk. Honestly, just having a little bit fun. We also add the rainbow on this little figure at the traffic lights. Not sure if you ever noticed that before, but it was there. Next up, we make a pass through Magnific, and a lot of things get fixed right away. But some still need masking. For example, we see that many of these faces start to fit, but we still have a lot of hallucinations and strange elements, so we definitely cannot leave it to the Magnific to complete the work. At a certain stage, we'll come back to Firefly and fix the odd things again. At this point, we are alternating between Firefly and Magnific. It's a tricky job because after a few upscales, Magnific can start adding too much micro contrast and everything falls apart. So remember, look closely what happens, lower the opacity, mask things out, anything that works. We are going through the image targeting what was messed up, while keeping the elements we liked. We also need to slightly adjust the tonal range of the image to make it a little bit brighter. Next, we are moving on to the details, including the trees, and some over Magnific passes. As we mentioned in the first lesson with upscalers, sometimes it may be necessary to run these crops through 4 times or 8 times upscale, and the faces get straightened nicely, and this is what happened here. We can see that the girl who was initially in a white wedding dress now fits much better into the setting. Another pass through Magnific, targeting these people further in the background. Previously they were not very solid, to say the least. You can see that it's a very Photoshop heavy process, one where you can arm yourself with patience and really transplant the substance of the image into anyone you want. Here we did a slight color adjustment as well. We add a small mist, a small vignette. We are making sure it's not too much in the shadows in the foreground. And another series of color adjustments. Fast forward. As we can see, there was some work done. Character after character, fix by fix. It might seem overwhelming with so many people, but it's actually not that complicated. You just work your way through and it's actually pretty fun.
And we'd encourage everyone to do similar exercise. It's so much eye-opening. And before you know it, you will become a post-production wizard. Thanks for sticking with us and see you in the next lesson.